Lozey.
Here.
Commissioner Prudian.
Here.
Commissioner Rosario is absent, and Commissioner Klein.
Present. Okay, minutes of the previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that if the minutes are found read and correct, that they be accepted.
Second by Commissioner Lozey. All in favor? Okay, project updates to 20-year contract, monthly report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The wastewater treatment plant performed very well during the month of July. It was a very rainy month. We had 11.5 inches of rain. Our flow was a little over 41 million gallons a day, but everything worked out. The BOD TSS removals were great. Our loadings were great. We processed 475 tons of sludge.
Report. Anybody got questions? Mr. Tino? Okay, next, the water treatment plant, monthly report. Mr. Dahl?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Water and Sewer Commission is in compliance with all federal and state drinking water regulations. The water supply capacity as of August 8th, yesterday, was 83%. The average for this time of year is 73%. 9 of the 10 of the contract full-time positions at the water treatment plant are currently filled. The mechanic position that was vacated on June 3rd is still open, and Veolia is currently in the process of filling that position. And that's my report.
Okay, CSO update, phase 1 construction update.
I'll be doing that for Anthony.
Okay.
GeoSo currently has 2 crews working on the project. One of the mainline crews is working on installing water, sewer, and drain mains on Neptune Street Port, which is the final street of this contract. The second crew is going to be working on finishing final restoration for the phase 1 project area of the inverts, curbing, sidewalks, and paving. As of last week, GeoSo has installed 8,100 linear feet of new drain, 4,600 linear feet of new water, and 4,200 linear feet of new sewer. And they did just under 600 linear feet of cured in place sewer relining on Center Street and South Street Park.
Anybody have questions? Sorry. Okay, under the business, authorization to approve bond anticipation notes.
Okay, I'll take that one. I'll give you a little background. Last meeting we had discussed a $7 million bond anticipation note for some capital improvements and capital costs. In addition to doing that, we have a 2011 series of bonds that we were able to, they were called and we were able to refund them. So we're going to borrow $7 million. We're going to refinance what's a little over $6 million. With interest would be about $8 million. So we'll save a little over $2 million. So we don't change the term of the when everything is due. It was due to be paid by 2031. So we don't change. We're not pushing anything out. We just refinance. It basically is what we're doing. So we're able to save the ratepayers some money over time. It'll help us as we're accumulating debt for the various projects. So it's sort of a 2-for-1. So what I need this afternoon is a motion for the bond anticipation notes, which is called the Series 2021 Series A.
You can make that motion.
I second the motion.
All's in favor?
If you could read.
I can read it.
Yeah, if you could read that,
so we
that'd be.
know what it's about.
Do a
Voted.
Do it by roll call.
Yeah, do a roll call on that, on the
Okay.
bond. Okay. Good.
All right. So that voted that the 24th supplemental resolution under the Commission's General Bond Resolution adopted May 31st, 1985 as amended is hereby adopted in substantially the form presented to this meeting with such additions, deletions, and other changes thereto, not inconsistent therewith as may be approved by the chairman, the executive director, or the treasurer, in accordance with such resolution prior to the delivery of any of the bond anticipation notes, 2021 Series A, referred to therein such additions, deletions, and other changes therefore, or thereto, to be reflected in the official copy of such resolution on file in the records of the Commission, together with a certificate of such approving officer attesting to his approval of all such additions, deletions, and changes, provided that any material shall change Any material change shall be approved by the commission.
We need a roll call.
Okay, Shannon, motion, we have a roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Calucci is absent. Commissioner Lozey?
Yes, accepted.
Yeah. Commissioner Prudian?
Yes, accepted.
Okay, and Commissioner Rosario is absent. Commissioner Trahan?
Yes, accepted.
Okay, and then the second motion we'll need is for the refunding of the 2011 bonds.
Okay, the general revenue refunding bonds, 2021 Series A, voted that the 25th supplemental resolution under the Commission's general bond resolution adopted May 31st, 1985, as amended, is hereby adopted in substantially the form presented to this meeting with such additions, deletions, and other changes thereto, not inconsistent therewith, as may be approved by the chairman, the executive director, or the treasurer in accordance with such resolution prior to the delivery of any of the general revenue refunding bonds. 2021 Series A, referred to therein, such additions, deletions, and other changes thereto to be reflected in the original copy of such resolution on file in the records of the commission, together with a certificate of such approving officer attesting to his approval of all such additions, deletions, and changes, provided that any material change shall be approved by the commission.
We need a roll call on that too.
So a motion to accept by Commissioner Prudian, second by Commissioner Lozey. Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Calucci is absent. Commissioner Lozey?
Accepted?
Commissioner Prudian?
Accepted.
Commissioner Rosario is absent. And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes, accepted. Okay, old business, collective bargaining, reopener request. Sam, you want to talk on the collective bargaining? Or?
Well, I prepared a memorandum and I distributed it to the commissioner and to the executive director. And it speaks for itself. Essentially, it requires a home rule petition. It's the only way. The enabling legislation is the statute that requires people to live in Lynn. In my memorandum, I distinguished how the police and fire were able to be exempt from the city charter requirement that likewise requires people to be residents of the city of Lynn. That's because there's a statute that allows police and fire to live within 10 miles.
Right.
And that was Mayor Kennedy negotiating with police and fire. That's the only exception. I've also taken the two prior home rule petitions that were filed. At that time, they were filed by then Speaker McGee in 1982 to create the Water and Sewer Commission and to amend the original creation of the Water and Sewer Commission so commission employees could become members of the city's pension system. That's the only two times the original enabling legislation has been amended. There was one other time for the 20-year service contract, and likewise, that was done by a home rule petition. A home rule petition requires a vote of the city council and the approval of the mayor. I have taken the two bills that I had found that were created, the commission and the one that amended, that were filed by then Speaker McGee, to the clerk of committees of the city council. I spoke with her today, and she said that the law department, Jim Lamana, is researching the procedure how to put it before the city council. But it is something that the commissioners cannot do. You cannot amend the statute only because of the home rule amendment, because it's a statute that pertains only to the city of Lynn and the surrounding communities that participate. The only way that that statute can be changed is by the legislature, and the only way that can occur is by a vote of the city council with the approval of the mayor.
So now, do we have to send a letter? Do we need to make a motion here to get that ball rolling, to send
I
something to
haven't
the
heard
city
back from the
council?
water department, but I'm just saying to you that Bob Fennell and I looked at the two actual bills that created it, House Representative bills. I don't know, because they haven't gotten back to me, the law department, how it originated in the city council. I don't think Speaker McGee originated it. He had been a member of the city council, but at that 1983, he was Speaker of the House. Somebody originated it before the city council. I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm hoping that Jim Romano will provide me with how they did it back then. But they
So should we
created
send a letter
commission.
to the water, from the commission to the law department, or like request?
Well, they're the ones who are, right now, I'm told, researching how the home rule petition would originate. You know, ordinarily, home rule petitions originate at the city council.
Right.
Here, it ultimately will go to the city council, but where it originates, and so they're looking back to see in the 2 times previous, how did it come to the city council? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So the police and the fire, how did that get?
Because there is a separate statute. If you read my memorandum, I cite the statute, and it says in the legislation that if there is existing statutes, the existing statute that we have is the Enabling Act. It says that residency. There is another statute that pertains to public safety personnel. So Mayor Kennedy had the right and did utilize that statute. She didn't exempt any other employees other than police and fire. That statute was passed by the legislature. It was a statewide statute that said police and fire could live within 10 miles or a further distance if approved from the city or town where they serve. So that is how the only change to residency under the city charter occurred. And that's because the only changes that it can occur in a statute is if there is another statute. Unfortunately for us, the only other statute we have says that every person who is employed must be a resident of the city. So if you want to change that, you have to change that statute.
So we can't do anything until the city council does a home rule petition.
Even they can't do anything, it's up to the legislature ultimately. But in 1962, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts adopted what's called the Home Rule Amendment to the Constitution. And that Home Rule Amendment says when you have a particular act that only affects a city and town and not the entire Commonwealth, that it has to be by the Home Rule petition. The Home Rule petition requirements are that you need the approval of the local body being the city council and the mayor in the city.
So when would our approval come into case?
Excuse me?
If we had to approve that issue, would it be after all that goes through that process?
I think the real question is how to get the legislature to do it, and the only way to get the legislature to do it is by a vote of the city council.
So it starts at the council first.
I believe that's the 2 times that we've seen before, that's where it,
Okay.
but how it got to the city council in 1982, there were 2 bills within weeks of each other than the speaker filed both of them. We've seen those bills, but the law department is looking at whether the city, they need a city councilor to introduce it, how to put it before the city council and the mayor.
So, yeah, I'll go down and I'll see Jim Romano tomorrow, the next day, and I'll see where it is.
Yeah, I was told he was the one that got the assignment.
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up with Jim. We can go from there. So then someone on the council is gonna have to make a motion to
Again,
send it to the legislature.
I don't have knowledge, I'm just assuming that that's how it occurred, because in 1982, there was no win-win. Somebody originated that idea, and that legislation got adopted by the mayor of the city and by the city council. That created the Water and Sewer Commission. After they created it, the question was what to do with the employees in terms of retirement. They quickly, within weeks, amended that. When they amended the enabling legislation, they used the exact same method. Home rule petition, adopted by the mayor and the city council. It went to the legislature adopted it. So that's the mechanism, and that's what...
So when the charter started here in '82, it already had the residency, it was in it, that was part of...
City charters had residency for many, many years. The only exception, and I spoke of that in my memorandum, because Bob and I discussed how was it, or could it be done by collective bargaining? And the answer is it can be done by collective bargaining if there is a statute that authorizes it. And there was a statute that authorized cities and towns to afford public safety personnel the the ability to live within so many miles of the city or town they serve. And that's what Kennedy utilized.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to do the same thing here. If we adopt, once we adopt it,
How long would that
they're gonna have to live
process
close.
take? How long would it take to go through all that? You know, realistically.
Well, I think you have to speak to people who are state representatives, and what happens is that if the city council adopts it, then it would be filed by representatives probably Cahill, Capano, and
Right,
Senator
they would
Wright.
send it to the full body.
Right, and then we've been dealing with the House Council at the legislature, and I think they said essentially the same thing to us. I think Representative Cahill asked the question on behalf of us, of the House Council's office. They're the ones who draft legislation.
Right.
And they came back with a list of statutes for Bob and I to look at, but essentially it reaffirmed what I think I had said orally at the last meeting, which is I thought it would need a home rule petition. And so now I would say, A, based on my research, and B, the concurrence of the House Council, it's going to require a home rule petition.
Okay.
And the home rule petition originates with the local governing body, but then generally the local representatives are the ones who carry it through the legislature. Bob serves in the legislature, and he helped me with the process in explaining that they await the approval of the local governing body when they get because it says right on the bill that was adopted, with the approval of the mayor and council when they file it.
Okay. So I'll reach out to Jim Lamanna. I'll find that out. So we can get that ball rolling. Go to the council. Any other new business? Anybody? Anything?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.